first drug epidemic in American history was tobacco. Tobacco was well established before the first explorers and colonists came to this country. The Native American Indian population were using it. The American tobacco industry was strong enough to finance the American Revolution, and it financed a lot of the early wars. So our country has always been involved, intimately involved, with cultivation of drugs and the use of drugs. The Civil War really popularized the use of morphine, and it changed a lot of the habits, because in the Civil War we had the introduction of the hypodermic syringe, which allowed the soldiers to be injected directly with morphine to alleviate the pain of their battlefield wounds.
Well, you can see where giving someone a hypodermic syringe and a bottle of morphine for a chronic pain would lead to a lot of difficulty, and many people became very addicted to these substances. But actually, the use of opium and morphine was rising rapidly prior to the Civil War, and it continued on rising up until about the mid-1890s. We were the only Western nation to have no national laws controlling narcotics in the 19th century. And you can see what happened with drugs in the 19th century, because we had a free economy in narcotics, a complete free enterprise. You could get morphine or you could get cocaine by mail order. Pure cocaine, the white powder, didn't really become commercially available until about 1884. And within 1 year, Parke Davis Company could give you cocaine in something like 14 different forms. Cocaine was seen as a wonderful tonic for the body and for the mind. In the late 1880s, the Hay Fever Association in America adopted cocaine as their official remedy. You could also get Coca cordial, Coca wine. Well, now, how did Coca-Cola come in? Well, Coca-Cola was a temperance drink. Coca wine without alcohol. Instead of wine, it was seltzer water. So that you could get the benefits of coca and extracts of coca and of cocaine, but alcohol would not touch your lips. So again, we go back to the notion that in the introductory phase of these substances, people think they're good.
Cocaine habits, mighty bad. It's the worst old habit that I ever had.
But we're also starting to see the first signs of abuse. Patients were coming in with problems. Physicians were seeing more and more complaints of cocaine overdoses and cocaine poisoning. And the reason for that is that the preparations over the counter became stronger and stronger.
But the way I love my coke is a doggone sin.
The first drug confession of a cocaine user was written in 1902. And that was really the signpost of trouble to come.
The use of morphine seemed to be declining from that period on, and I suspect that cocaine also was starting to decline because of the fear among the American people about these substances. That resulted in the first international treaty to control opium and cocaine in the world, the Hague Opium Convention in 1912. Their idea was very similar to what's exactly the same as it is our policy now. That is, if the other countries of the world where this stuff is grown and manufactured brought it under control, then there wouldn't be any smuggling into the United States, and our problem would be gone.
And it took some more strict legislation in 1914, the Harrison Act, to actually proclaim for all practical purposes that these drugs were prohibited. And that really curtailed a lot of the use, but use only went underground.
I gotta have dope. I'm a hophead. I'd sell my soul for just one shot.
What happened in our country was that the whole memory of this earlier drug epidemic faded away, and knowledge about drugs faded. So now, when we go back and you say, what happened between 1950 and 1960, one of the things you can say is you had had by that time 1 or 2 generations of Americans who knew almost nothing about drugs.
She don't lie, she don't lie, she don't lie. Cocaine.
You had a shift of attitude toward these drugs. These drugs were starting to be seen as helpful, just like they were back in the 1870s and 1880s.